Mueller, former Assistant Attorney General under George W. Bush, Jack Goldsmith, laid out the worst-case scenario in The Atlantic back in October. Today, his prediction doesn't seem so far-fetched. He wrote, quote, "What if Mueller finds evidence that Trump colluded with the Russians and Trump fires not just Mueller but also scores of others in the Justice Department and pardons himself and everyone else involved? These are not crazy possibilities. The Constitution has held thus far and might continue to do so under more extreme circumstances. But it also might not." Joining us at the table, Alicia Menendez, journalist and contributing editor for Bustle, and Jason Johnson, politics editor for The Root and MSNBC contributor. Let me start with you. So Republican Senator Tillis was for protecting Bob Mueller before he was against protecting Bob Mueller, and now all of a sudden he's for it again. Yesterday, putting out a statement with his Democratic colleague Senator Coons saying, quote, "We urge President Trump to allow the special counsel to complete his work without impediment, which is in the best interest of the American people, the president, and our nation." I guess better late than never.
Look, people were going to eventually say this, but the practical issue is this. It's an election issue. Above and beyond the constitutional things, if you just look at the House and Senate, they recognize that if you fire Bob Mueller, they can kiss their jobs goodbye. People are angry enough. They are frustrated enough. This administration's communication skills aren't good enough to justify firing Bob Mueller. They couldn't come up with a good enough reason. And the Republicans would lose the House. They would lose the Senate. They would lose state legislatures. They would lose everything close to dog catcher if they were to fire Mueller at this point. And that's one of the main reasons why you're finally having people come out and say, look, you got to keep this guy safe.
You know, it's interesting that you're asking a bigger question, which is what this means for the American presidency, but I also think there's a question about what this means for the Republican Party. I was in Parkland on Saturday at the March for Our Lives there, and I was talking to all these young teen girls. They're all registered, pre-registered. They're all registered as Democrats. And when you talk about why they're registering as Dems, they don't talk about Trump. They talk about the Republican Party and the failures they see there. So there is a long-term legacy issue for the party that's bigger than just this midterm.
Do you think, though, that I mean, Tom Tillis was one of the original sponsors of legislation to protect Mueller. And then that fell very much out of fashion. And when it was out of fashion, it was at the same time that FBI Director Chris Wray was begging the speaker to shut down Devin Nunes's reckless. He said there were grave concerns about the memo he released. It was at the time when Donald Trump was at, DEFCON 4 against Andrew McCabe. Do you think that something happened to revive this effort to protect Mueller? Because they sure let the president get a lot of slugs in.
You know, we saw a few weekends ago that there was this test, right? This kind of test round fired, where the White House is making noise again. The investigation has to end.
Donald Trump tweeted about Mueller by name twice.
Exactly, and I think that was just a test to see how would they react. And what you got, I think, unfortunately, in a lot of quarters was, I'm very troubled by that. You know, it would be a bad thing, and the Mueller investigation should keep on going. I think there are some Republicans who are only comfortable saying he should stay and investigate as long as they think it won't amount to something terrible. But I watched this whole thing happen for a year now, and is there anything that's happened in Washington since the president was inaugurated that makes you think that there will be a change of heart, that if something terrible is there, that they will all say, wait a second, we have to stop this from happening? That's not how the place works right now.
It's dark now.
I get asked all the time, Elise, and I'm sure you do too, I got asked this morning, where are the Republicans? Who's going to stand up to Trump? And I say, nobody. I mean, if someone was going to stand up to him, don't you think they would have done so after the Access Hollywood tape? And if they weren't disgusted by that, maybe after Charlottesville? And if they weren't disgusted by that, maybe by someone who's a protectionist in a party that's been for free trade for 4 generations? I mean, there isn't anybody.
Well, there's no electoral incentive right now for these Republicans to take a strong stance against Trump. He's still very popular with that 35% that isn't going to budge no matter what, and then enough Republicans that to actually get over the finish line in November, you need to be pro-Trump. And you look at how people who have been anti-Trump, or they've been kind of wishy-washy and unconvincing, like Ed Gillespie in Virginia when he tried to be more pro-Trump, and it just is inauthentic and voters aren't buying it. So Republicans are just really in a bind this election season.
Let me put up some poll numbers. I don't disagree with any of that political analysis, but Bob Mueller and his work is, we don't have the poll, but I believe upwards of 70% of Americans want him to be able to finish his job. The numbers are very lopsided.
Right.
I think it's something like 86% of Democrats are for him completing his work, and the number of Republicans is in the high 40s. But Bob Mueller is still a popular and respected figure.
Yeah, no matter what Trump has tried to do, he can't destroy the FBI. The average person still, if my kid gets kidnapped, if I get defrauded, heck, look at any NBC, CBS nightly TV shows. We believe in the FBI. So his attacks on the institution, his attacks on Mueller, who, because he's quiet, because he doesn't have a lot of leaks, because he's not on television embarrassing himself or seeming to attack the president in a partisan way, the organization and the investigation looks clean to most American people. And so Trump doesn't have any victory in getting rid of him other than trying to stop the Russia investigation. And if you get rid of Mueller, people think that he obviously must have been doing something legitimate. So it's a problem on multiple levels.
Let me bring Frank Figliuzzi. Oh, you don't agree? Go ahead.
So pulling on Mueller is like pulling on gun control, right? The country supports gun control, and it never happens. The country is not going to go to war voting on Bob Mueller. They will tell a pollster, yes, he should finish his work. Is that going to be a pivotal issue in the elections? I'm skeptical.
Well,
it would be. It would be.
I just came back from a round of focus groups for the Ashcroft in America project in Mississippi and Tennessee, and hardly places that do not support Donald Trump. And on this issue, it's such a divide in terms of the news consumption and the news silo and what sources people are getting their news from. And it was the week of the attack in London, the chemical gas that is only manufactured in Russia. And you could, some of the strong Trump supporters, we heard from multiple people who believed that it couldn't have been Russia because they manufactured it and were the only people, and so it would be too obvious. And so it's honestly depends on what is coming from the news outlet, and this has been successfully painted by far-right media as a witch hunt. And so
let me bring Frank Figliuzzi in, though, because I want to ask a serious question, and I've asked you this before. It seems that while this is all about Donald Trump's potential legal liability, he and his family members' potential criminal liability, it's all fun and games to disparage, worse than disparage, to try to destroy the integrity and the reputation of the FBI. But I worked for a president on September 11, 2001, and you sort of need them. Something really bad goes down.
You know, Nicolle, we like to say that America is at peace because the FBI is at war. It's really true. Every day there are agents and analysts who get out of bed and come to work with a mission of simply making America safe today. And it's a daily thing. As we also say, the terrorists only have to get it right once. The FBI has to get it right every single day. And I think the public understands that by and large, and I think the erosion of the president's kind of credibility with everything from Stormy Daniels to everything else helps to keep at arm's length his efforts to attack the Bureau. But I also think, as a student of human behavior, we're just one bad day away at the White House from him not being able to be restrained and from him possibly replacing Rosenstein and inserting somebody who will constrain and limit Mueller, or even replace the Attorney General, who then would not be recused and then could take over and again limit Mueller. So I'm fearful about that happening. I think Mueller needs protections in place.
Two things that I don't hear come out of your mouth very often. I'm fearful. Frank Figliuzzi, thank you so much. When we come back, the new effort